We're going to have a debate on Claude Code. Is it great for GTM? Is it not great for GTM? And I'm going to take the position of it is probably not ideal for certain things, and I want the rest of the group to challenge me on it. So we'll see what happens. We're going to play this video. Just killed Claude Code's data routing capabilities. Now, before the Claude Code crowd turns this off, hear me out. I'm not saying Claude Code is bad. I actually think it's one of the most powerful tools engineers have right now. And yes, Claude can absolutely move data between systems. A lot of teams are already using it to build custom GTM workflows at this moment. But there's a fundamental architectural problem with using AI agents for revenue infrastructure. Claude can move data, but only within a limited context window and a very narrow view of what actually matters. Claude evaluates a small slice of data at a single moment in time. Revenue workflows don't work like that. They depend on what engineers call the system state. System state simply means the full condition of your GTM data across every system at that moment. For example, is the prospect already in an active deal in the CRM? Are they on the do not contact list somewhere else in your stack? When was the last campaign they received? Have they already replied to a previous campaign? Those conditions exist across multiple systems and across millions of records. AI agents don't continuously evaluate the entire system. They operate on partial context with high compute costs and non-deterministic outputs. Revenue infrastructure needs the opposite. It needs deterministic evaluation. Deterministic simply means that given the same data and the same rules, the system will always produce the same result. No guessing, no hallucinations, no missing context. That's what RevOps does. RevOps stores all your GTM data in a central warehouse and synchronizes events across your CRM, sequencers, and other tools in real time. You define safe segments based upon exact criteria that matter to your business. Whenever a contact enters that segment, RevOps automatically sends that contact to any third-party system. Clay, NAN, sequencers, CRMs, your entire GTM workflow runs continuously across the full dataset. The best part is that anyone can set this up. Non-technical founders can configure it in minutes without writing code. And if you're a power user who loves AI, great. RevOps works perfectly alongside Claude Code. We simply provide the deterministic infrastructure underneath it. You also get a full interface and reporting layers showing exactly what happened with your data. AI workflows are often a black box, thousands of lines of code with unknown error rates. With RevOps, every trigger, every sync, and every data movement is visible. If you want a system you can set up in minutes that runs reliably and costs a fraction of a custom AI workflow and get... Okay, so you guys get the argument. I'm going to stop sharing. Tell me who here is using Claude Code, and feel free to take the opposite position of what I just said. We'll just start with something simple. Who's using Claude Code heavily here? Nobody? Nobody?
I'm not using Code, but I'm using Codex, which is very similar.
Right, similar. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, Codex is probably better than Claude for coding. Okay, so go for it. So let's hear your perspective.
I'm mainly using it for data cleanup so far, not really managing campaigns or anything like that. And it's really good for that. Like, just do you do across like multiple different file types, for example?
How big is your data set?
Not that big, like 25,000 in each.
And curious, if you had to pull, Alan, can you follow up on that in terms of your context window question?
Yeah, I can. So my question is, is there any sort of AI involved? Are you trying to dump 25,000 context into some sort of context window for Codex or for Claude? Because I know Codex does not have a 1 million token context window. I think it has 200K instead. So do you have a script to clean the data, or are you heavily just reliant on GPT 5.3 to look through every single contact and then clean each specific data point?
Harnesses like Codex, for example, or Claude Code, what they do when you ask them to do a task, they just go and generate a script on the spot based on exactly what you told them, and they just run it on a terminal. So it's not really different from having a script that you run each time. That's like, it becomes deterministic then. But when it's like a routine thing that you always do, it doesn't make sense to involve AI in it necessarily. You just need a system that works, so you can just plug in inputs, then get the same exact output that you expect. So I don't really see the value of using AI in stuff like this when it comes to GTM.
Yeah, so okay, it makes sense. So basically you spin up a script, you're using the script in a deterministic fashion. So essentially it's the same thing that I would suggest to do anyways, but the thing that makes it possible is that in that scenario, you're actually feeding it a predefined list that needs cleaning, which I think makes a lot of sense. That actually is a good use case. We were, Alan, by the way, if you guys haven't met, Alan's my head of product. I'm a full stack developer. He ran my agency's GTM side for a while. So the thing is that where it becomes tricky is not when you have that. And I think that's actually a great use case for data gathering, but I'm just wondering, we just saw this thing where they're like, hey, through a single API, go grab 30 of these different data sources and pull it through the API from, say, Apollo and, say, in Lead Magic, et cetera, et cetera. And then using Claude, it then goes and does the enrichment. So I assume that it is transformed. There's some type of background deterministic layer to that they're not saying. They're just saying it's an API, but in fact, there is some type of backend deterministic layer. And again, that's fine because it's feeding in data sets that are complete. And I think that does a good job with that. I think where it really breaks down is when you need to go to a bunch of different systems and you have to start checking whether or not, say, your instantly contact list is the same as Clay, is the same as HubSpot, is the same as HeyReach, is the same as Apollo in terms of activity matching. And the reason I say that, and this is what I want people's thoughts on, is I know we're deep in like the technical weeds, Jake. We'll get there. The problem with that is there's this concept of an identity graph. Have you guys heard of the idea of an identity graph? Okay, I'm going to share
No,
my. So this is like the fundamental concept. Let me share my screen. And again, it might just turn out like a lot of people talk on LinkedIn and then just like 90% of the GTM world actually doesn't do any of this shit, which is funny. I don't know if that's true, but that's why I'm asking. So let's go into a very basic idea here. And I would admit most GTM engineers and I think agencies do not think comprehensively about this problem. And so therefore they never run into the edge cases I'm describing. So this is the idea, is what do you do in a world like this, right? You have this guy, Tom, VP of engineering, who has Trigify, HeyReach, Instantly, HubSpot, Salesify, and some deal flow from the CRM. And in reality, over time, Bob is moving through time doing things, right? So there's three elements of it. There's the inbound activities somebody does, say from clicking on an ad or like landing on a website. There's the outbound activities you do, which is like send emails, send messages, send text messages, make phone calls. And then there's things people do in the world, right? And the things people do in the world are like comment on a LinkedIn post or search for something or engage in some type of webinar or go to an event. All of those things are happening simultaneously in a line of activity. And so if you don't have this problem solved of unifying that person, when your AI agent, if you want them to actually do shit, like, hey, go message Bob, follow up with Bob. If you don't know Bob is within a certain context of, say, a status. So as an example, go over here, dink. Okay, so again, you got the start of reality, cold email campaign goes out, LinkedIn campaign, website visit, inbound website sign up. Then there's the end, today. Now, in that period of time, and instantly, you have a status for the contact, and you might have a status for the campaign. Then over here in HeyReach, you have a different status, right? Connection, request send, connected, replied. And then in Orem, you might have a different status. And then in HubSpot, you might have multiple different statuses, contact, company, opportunity. And so the reality is that not only is this guy doing all these things across time, but he's also marked as a certain status within all these systems simultaneously. So now, like, the SAT question for everyone is, if that is all true, how do you know what to send or how to reach out to him appropriately without spamming the shit out of your entire list every single time? Now, I would argue that it doesn't really matter if it's a massive TAM. But if you start to get into the 30,000 or less total addressable markets where it actually matters significantly, you can really hurt your brand if you don't do this. And just as a salesperson, not a GTM person, timing matters. You don't want to just randomly blast somebody off of a LinkedIn post with your profile when you just had a meeting with them yesterday. So anyways, I say all that to say AI does not do a good job of what we call unifying into a unified profile, which is how do you know this URL actually is the same as this phone number if there's no other way to match the person deterministically. Otherwise, it's just a probabilistic guess. Oh, this guy has the same name, different company, same name. The AI just says, we'll just say it's the same guy. And then you message him a certain way. So anyways, I'm giving you guys context for the problem because I want to make sure I'm not anti-AI. I'm anti things not working. So if AI can do that, then let's go. Any thoughts on that? Or is this like over the head of what everyone else is thinking about?
No, I think you're right. In any sales situation, I mean, you can get as basic as personas. If you send the wrong message, people are just going to tune out, right? And you're just another email spam in their inbox and they unsubscribe or whatever because you're not, it's so many people that do LinkedIn automation and you get these crazy things. They pull the wrong job that you're at or just stuff like that. If you don't have the right context and you're not approaching it at the right time in the right way, then you're screwed.
See, but John, I think you have my bias, which is you're like a more of an enterprise level salesperson, and you're coming into it with, it's obvious, right? It seems obvious to me too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like in a B2C, this clearly doesn't matter. Or like you said, in a huge TAM, you can make those mistakes and get away with it. But
What
yeah,
I
I've got a
mean,
really small TAM, and if I screw that up, man, one lost client or one lost prospect is a big deal.
yeah, I think what's interesting is I'm noticing a trend right now, and I'm going to say it out loud. So again, I'm here to be challenged. I'm dead serious. I've noticed that there's a break at the age of 30. If it's under 30, it's like super Claude Code users. And as soon as you go above 30, it's like everybody else is, I'm not wasting my time. And my gut, this is like my intuition speaking. And I just said to Alan before the call, I'm like, I do not want to be the old guy who's like, those young kids, the fuck? I don't want to be that guy. But I will also say that it seems to me like, did you see that meme from on my LinkedIn profile where it's like a viral thing that went crazy on Twitter about the guy who's like dancing around talking about Claudebot? Have you guys seen that? I'll
Yeah,
play it for
pretty
you.
funny.
I'll play it for you real quick, just because it summarizes like the way I view the market. And I really want somebody to show me how this is working so well. Because if it does, oh, CT's here. CT will take this position. Okay, great. Hey, CT, can you hear us? Can you hear this?
Yep, I'm in.
Okay, dude, you joined at the perfect time. We're talking about Claude, and I know you're like a super user. And so we're debating right now. I'm trying to create a debate, not successfully, because nobody here seems to use Claude. But I was like, he will have a perfect rebuttal to what I'm saying. So let me just summarize how we got here. Basically, I said, look, AI is fantastic for probable or is great for certain things. It's probabilistic, therefore it's error prone for certain things that need to be precise. You need deterministic, where the system always repeats perfectly every single time for any execution. And then Brahim basically said, look, the way I use it is for data cleaning predominantly and for some lead scoring, where he will go have Claude write a script and then he'll pull in, say, a couple lists and then he'll merge them, deduplicate them, and clean them up. And then I responded basically with, that works fine as long as you have common matching keys across the data set. But if you don't, and you're in different platforms, then you have a real problem of unification. And then there's also the context window issue. And so anyways, I was then saying, this is where I'm about to show this LinkedIn post where I still have yet to see somebody truly successfully pull off a full campaign with it. And I know that you say you've been crushing, so I want to hear your perspective, but I'm going to play the video and then would love to know your use case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's share, and share. Okay. Okay. It's this jackass here.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Hold on, like this.
Now researching. 7 AI agents running simultaneously right now, researching, curating my calendar and curating my lifestyle right now as we speak. This guy! If you're not building a business using AI, you're going to get left behind.
But what business have you actually built?
Did you not just hear what I told you? I have 7 AI agents running. One of them is syncing up my personal calendar with my wife's menstrual cycle. And a tweet about it got 50,000 views on Twitter.
Haven't you spent like $5,000 on the tokens for these?
Oh, it's an investment! AI agents are the future, and if you're not using them, you're going to get left behind. Claudebot, OpenBot, OpenAI, ChatGPT, it's all the future.
Okay. So I think that's a good segue. See, I want you to refute that position.
Yeah, I think there's too much mystique around these agents, right? And there's too much that's being attributed to these agents. The way I think about it is each agent's just a little brain that can do a little bit of stuff, right? And it's almost like you need to, if you think about running an organization, like running a team, right? You need to delegate like very specific tasks to individuals, especially if they're relatively new, they might be fresh graduates, really smart. And you guys know this already. Like you want to chunk down the task as small as possible so that an agent can run it. But you cannot let it run like on its own entirely. You need to string it together with like a linear type orchestrator. So whether it's n8n, trigger.dev, or you build your own Node.js thing, you need something that like A goes to B predictably and reliably all the time. So the way that, so I'll just walk you through like a real example, right? Like right now, I have a bunch of Trigify listeners out there pulling in signals from wherever, right? Like LinkedIn, Reddit, and so on. So that's great. It gets pulled in. I then need to, like, it's a lot of noise. Like, it's just a ton of people that I would never want to engage with. So that stripping that list down, that's where like an agent is helpful because it would pull from, for example, yeah, actually, you know what? It's funny. I just had this built. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'll show it. All right, hold on. So literally, I was just trying to.
That's hilarious. You actually have a whole. That's amazing. Okay, go
Can you
ahead.
guys see it? Yeah, so this is literally it. So there's like n8n is the orchestrator, right? Like that does like that linearly moves data from place to place. There's a signal capture here. So we have Trigify, there's Apify that pulls stuff in as well. So this is all raw. And it can go into Supabase and go like I'm using Supabase for this because I think ReviOps is already processed data. Like I would want leads to be in ReviOps, for example. So you need like a staging database somewhere else that just has trash, right? Like you just have a lot of noise. And I was gonna use like something simple like Airtable, but I realized like Airtable has a cap on 50,000 rows. I don't know what's this thing with 50,000 rows. Like so anyway, so Supabase is you just keep going forever, right? So that's something that I chucked it in there. And then the second layer then becomes the enrichment and scoring. So very similar to how you would build a clay table, you don't want to be using your most expensive enrichments on your trash leads. You want to score them cheaply and quickly and then pass them along. So that like n8n does that, right? So you have all these trash leads, they get into the cheapest scoring that I can use. So this might be 4.1 mini or whatever it is. And then it pulls out, okay, which companies are these guys from? And only the ones that match my ICP, which is like literally I was doing this the other day. I had 6,000 leads that came through here, and I had like 40 that I actually put through an Apollo enrichment. So barely anything. And because of this, like I'm even questioning, like, why do I even need to pay for Clay anymore? It just it doesn't make sense because this flow here is way faster than building a Clay table and running like custom scripts on that, or even chucking these leads into a Clay table template that already exists. So I had Clay tables with webhooks like going in, and I was doing this and I was wondering why the hell is it so slow? And I realized that it's because it's not like happening all at once. Like Clay's got its own waterfall, whereas if you run your own kind of Python script or whatever it is, this thing just goes like that, right? You're then limited by the API rate limits on all of these different tools. So once that happens, we then have that more formal scoring and like all of this. People say agents, like it's over glorifying this thing. It's just a workflow. And what happens there is it then gets chucked through n8n into a routing and activation layer.
Real quick, just on the layer two, what's your scoring methodology?
So I think this is maybe idiosyncratic to me. So there's firmographics, which are really relatively easy to get. I don't know did I talk about job? So I've been scraping like job posts as well. And I use like basically the text that they use to write in job description. So my ICP, our company, like basically founder-led SaaS, 1 to 5 million revenue, who are constrained by the founder being unable to scale their GTM because it all falls on them. And they're doing 1,001 other things, but so like the signals there are pretty specific to me. So they're going to be like, they're hiring an SDR out of desperation. And they'll be like SDR reporting directly to the founder. That's an immediate signal to me. Okay, this guy immediately goes to my tier one. And I hit them by LinkedIn, email. If I can get their phone number, I'll get their phone number. And then tier two would be they're hiring an SDR. I search and find like that's the first sales hire that they have. Then I know, okay, like they may or may not know what they're doing, like hiring an SDR at 1 million ARR, for example. And so I'll hit them with a different type of message. I would still connect with them on LinkedIn. And then there's just the generic other stuff, right? Like they have a few salespeople already, a couple of marketers, and they're hiring a RevOps person, for example, right? Then I know, okay, maybe they're thinking about systematizing their GTM processes. Like I'm awesome at that. I'm gonna come in and do that and pitch that. Yeah. So I don't. Does that answer the question? Like,
Oops, let me let Joel in. So there's a firmographic component and demographic and even psychographic component of a score.
Oh, yes.
But there's also a score happens within a window of time.
Yep.
Because obviously, if I come to a website today, it's meaningless in a year. Who cares what somebody did in 1950, as far as us making money?
Yeah.
So I would say you need a context window of, say, 7 days or 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, 180 days. So you need those windows. And then you also need a time decay on top of it. So you need some type of like half-life, which basically says, okay, let's say you have Bob, and Bob does like website visit, social comment post, replies to your email, and let's say that adds up to something. Immediately, a second later, there's a decay on that value. And so basically, what you're doing is you're constantly having a hierarchy of scores. I'll show you something real quick just for the sake of making my point. One thing we have, I think deeply about this problem because I actually think scoring is critical to routing. I think it's like a foundational problem. I don't think it's like something that is, we're not breaking ground here. I think it has to be solved. And the question is, who's going to solve it and what is the most elegant solution? And honestly, that's something I'm actively considering right now. And I would say that I don't have the full answer, but we have a prototype coming out in, at least at RevOps, in a month. And it looks like this. Can you see this?
Yep.
So what it is, it gives you a list of people and it gives you a weighted score and an activity score within a context window with a time decay, like I just described. And so it allows you to come in and then set up your signals. And you can go and say, for example, add, I'm making it up, our B2B website visit. Then we'll choose, and so in our system, we have something called events. And you can define your event and tie it to a data set like RB2B. And then you can just give it a score and then create the signal. And what that does is it adds, as you can see here, it to the list of things. Now, what happens is that in live time, essentially, it is tabulating these total scores. And you can do an activity count or a weighted score, and then you can sort from top to bottom. And to your point, this is where you're going next, is there's this concept of a trigger where you can then basically say, okay, whatever you want the trigger to be, website visit plus reply plus X and Y, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you can come and you can define when the threshold hit has been reached. So for example, my total score is greater than, I don't know, 10, we can just leave it there, for like the website visit as an example, or we could add additional conditions as we want to this. So it's a combination of a score and demographic, firmographic data. So yeah, so I think we're like tackling the same problem in different ways, but yeah, keep going. I want to see what you came up with.
Yeah, no,
Can I just throw something in, see, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the scoring is like the key thing because I mean, years and years ago, before all this was even possible, I used to tell the guys I managed on my sales team, we were just doing scoring mostly from drip campaigns and website visits and just behaviors that people were taking. And I always had to get across to them, if you've got 1,000 leads, don't fucking just pick one of 1,000 and call them, right? Or email them or whatever. Look at their lead score, right? I've made it so you can sort by the lead score. And it creates all the difference in the world. We didn't have all this automation, right? And in CRM, their lead view was sorted by lead score. I don't know how you do it without scoring. I just don't even understand that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think one of the challenges that like initially I was facing was just lead volume to start with, especially when you're starting new. It's like, okay, where do I get my leads? Yeah. That's challenge number one. And then once you realize, like you pull all these signals and you realize, oh my gosh, like these are all leads, but 90% of them are trash. And it makes sense because if only like apocryphally, only 3% of the market is in market at any one time, then the scoring matters so much. And Ben, I love what you shared actually, because essentially you're doing like a lot of what this is. I have this running on a cron and it does like I've manually created stuff where, like lead magnet posts on LinkedIn, for example, like in my space, like if I see the same guy like commenting for 5 different lead magnet posts, like initially like that appeared on my list like 5 times and that was dumb. So I had to like insert code my own like counters for each of these different activities, and those added to the score as well. And exactly as you said, like the time decay, like the moment it passes like a 7-day window or not, like a 1-month window, like then like those scores get degraded. I'm building all of this on my own. Like I love what you just shared, Ben, and we talked about this. I know you're building this. What would be great is if that existed like in the command line. I don't know. Like I spend this, I joke about this, but it's true. Like I spend 70% of my day that is not like on calls like this, like just stuck in the command line. I'm not looking at any UI. I don't want to look at any UI because it's slow. Like manually clicking buttons, that's crazy. Like just type it in and it'll be done.
You know what's funny is that we literally, I'm working out a deal with several companies right now for exactly that, where so it's like the unsexy stuff that nobody wants to talk about, but we're releasing our unified person graph in 30 days along with the score that I just showed you. And that's where it automatically ties to everything, automatically deduplicates, automatically unifies. But the thing is it's persistent.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a temporary state of unity. Which is what you would have in like a cleaning script, which would be wrong anyways because it doesn't have the identifiers. So in our system, it has the identifiers and it does the unification and it persists across time. So what we're thinking is, and what we're negotiating right now is just having a pure event-based model where we just take a small margin on our compute cost. So our cost is like 0.000124. And so we're thinking of just taking a standard SaaS margin, which would be 70%. And so that would be 0.00, I think 18 or something like that. It might be more than that. But anyways, it's something in that range and that's just, it's not like an API usage. It's not a AI credit usage. It's literally just the cost of compute. That's all we're marking up on. So we're thinking of doing that. And you're right. You could just in your command line, just go to RevOps and be like, hey, can you do this? But I think this is where, Alan, do you have questions about that? Because I know that you think it might be overcome by the scripting side.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know. I'd have like a set list of questions to ask. I guess all I need to understand and do more research on is how you guys are actually using it. If there are examples of prompts which you guys are like consistently, daily, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. every day, you're pasting into Claude, I just want to see those because those will help us build behind the scenes as well. So if there are like questions you are consistently asking Claude for or Codex for, let me know. I just want to better understand your usage, and that's pretty much it. So I don't have any set questions.
So if I can like just maybe probe you a little bit on that, Alan and Ben, right? I'm just like the way that you guys have described it, like the UI is going to be great because not everybody lives in the command line. I get that. And you definitely need the UI. But in terms of the function, the job to be done for RevOps, like if it was this signal orchestrator that pushed into triggers that I think it's relatively trivial to push it into, say, a HeyReach and a dialer or just like Smart Lead or Instantly, right? Like that part, the router is going to be, this is relatively trivial. Like you guys would have that like overnight easily. This bit here, if you had the infrastructure for that and you only charge the markup and compute, it would save me like a week's worth of building and maybe 2 hours a week of like maintenance on doing this. I'm like that's a no-brainer SaaS spend that like compared to like I'll make the comparison to Clay, right? Like I can build and launch a campaign in the command line with multiple, I don't know, 50 different variations on the copy in less than an hour in Claude Code. Like, why would I go into Clay and like mess around with that? It like that value proposition doesn't like no longer is interesting.
Yeah, I think that this is standard speed to value, right? It's like the Hormozy equation of what's the dream outcome? I have a functioning, working campaign, right? It's working, it's performing, I'm getting good results, and I didn't have to do the list building and the cleaning and the normalization and the fucking data transfer and all that shit. And so the value equation is dream outcome multiplied by likelihood of success divided by effort multiplied by time. And so in that case, you have your dream outcome success. Okay, you seem like you're having success, so let's call it 98%. Maybe you have some things you got to screw up. And then below that, there's the effort, like a fraction of the effort. And then the speed to value is 5 minutes versus 20, I don't know, 20 hours or 8 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is in Clay. That makes sense to me. I think the thing with the scoring mechanism that I think is so subtle, but it's so important, which is that you have to have the unified person view. And I'm not talking about RevOps. I'm talking about like a thing called a unified person view. Because like before you jumped on, we were talking with John about how you get one wrong reach out, one wrong, hey, somebody did something over here, let me send a message with a critical prospect. Then they realize you're automating it because people are more skeptical, especially nowadays. You've completely just crushed all your subject matter expertise, your like built up authority in a single message. Hey, just saw you comment on this post. Would love to jump on a call with you. Meanwhile, you have a huge demo coming up tomorrow. For example, I have a demo with Chevron for $1 million plus deal. If I sent that to Denise, my champion, game over. It would be like, what the fuck, Ben? Have you been messaging me or is this your, and all of a sudden I'm backpedaling. So I don't think I think the bias is that as a GTM agency, I think we are less concerned about that because for us, we live in the dirt of list building where we're disconnected from the end sales process of like you're actually in a deal. But the problem is, and this is what I think GTM engineers generally overlook, is the idea that it all has to connect. Let's say you have a deal cycle of say 500 people and you're going out to the market and you've already created this funnel of that crap that was in Supabase, and then say some layer ends up in RevOps and some layer ends up in say HubSpot. At some point, you end up with your creme de la creme. And if you don't have that full system tied together, again, now this is not a RevOps pitch. This is just a what I would want as a chief revenue officer. I need to make sure there is a walled garden so that I never touch those people inappropriately. And if I do want to automate it, it has to be so precise that I have 100% certainty. Anyway, I know I'm just giving context to like my bias, which is more like revenue oriented, whereas I know that the GTM engineer focus and agency owner is just like fucking make this easier for me to blast through these lists. And I know that there is a negative impact to the end user, which is their clients, which I think is to some degree unknowable because the client is unsophisticated. They don't know until they go, why did you just message Bob? He's one of our biggest clients. Happens all the time. So anyways, I'm not asking for a response on that. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I also wanted to chime in because I have some thoughts. When it comes to that, I think that everything comes down to, as you mentioned, the priorities you have. Not sure if because I'm turning 30 next week, but I'm experiencing the same. Like at the end of the day, what I care about is the type of business I'm building. I know there are people that are pretty technical. They understand a lot of things related to the backend, Claude Code, and all that. But if what you care about is building offers, putting them in front of the right people, having a system to deliver predictably results for your clients, your thought process is going to be completely different. You're going to find, for example, a way to outsource that technical stuff that maybe you don't know how to do, or you're going to find a way to find someone that can teach you quickly how to overcome maybe a challenge that requires some technical skill set. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's about finding out what you got into this game for, the outcome you actually want, and what are the levers you have to pull to get those results. Also, client selection. If you're working with very technical offers, very technical teams, and all that, you're going to have a completely different path. If you're working with services that are pretty easy to understand, basic, they have a huge total addressable market, your process is going to be completely different. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I also post a couple of memes about Claude Code and all that, but that is the main reason why. If you are a go-to-market engineer hired at an agency and you are paid to book meetings and you're playing with Claude Code and you are not getting meetings for the client and all that is make no sense for you to focus most of your attention on things that are not impacting the results you are delivering for the client. So yeah, that's my perspective on it.
I want to echo that, Sergio. Like you make a really good point, and I want to like just give credit as well, like to Ben, because like when I entered this group and started this, I was running like a not basic, but cold email lead gen. That was my offer, right? And exactly as you said, Sergio, like number one, like I don't know that I was that good at it. I was really good at building the stuff, the engine to send those emails. But I wasn't really, there were a few clients I was making a difference for. And Ben, when we first started talking, like I had 6 clients. I fired 3 of them because they were just not a good fit. And to Sergio's point, and like my life is way better right now. Like I feel like my MRR has actually gone up. And my offer is now like what I'm doing, like what I just showed you guys. I'm building these machines for founders who already have product market fit, for example. And they just need to be able to hand off and scale their GTM. And I realized that's what I do. That's what I'm great at. Cold email, outbound, like, oh my gosh, there's so many better people like in this room. Like all of you are like, I'm probably in the bottom like 10% of this room being able to do that. And to Sergio's point, like Ben, I think what you're building, if you can take all this engineering off the plate of people doing like cold email, like hell yeah, man, that's awesome offer, right?
I think there's an interesting, thank you for that feedback, by the way. I didn't know that was going well for you, but I think that's the whole point of the agency model. So again, you haven't checked out this, I think most of you have, but if you haven't, agency.reviops.com, there's a whole financial model about how to build out your offer. The whole like end of the rainbow takeaway from that entire there's an hour lesson in there, and if you go play with the numbers, you'll see me walk you through it, is that a good business does not mean the most revenue. And also like more clients does not mean good. And I think that it's such a subtle, obvious thing once you see it to recognize, and such a non-obvious thing if you don't know it. Because I think that especially the people that are just jumping into the game and they're just like, I'm going to go get to $1 million and they're hunting the revenue, which is what we all do. Everyone's been there if you don't know better. You end up with this really shitty business. It's like you're just constantly putting out fires. People are constantly complaining. Your GTM engineers are like waiting to blow up in your face because all of them quit. All of them go start their own agency. All of them want the same dream you want. And so you're this weird churn fest. It's like the clients churn, then the GTM engineers churn, and then you have to go find a bunch of others. And so it's just went down. I'm not just hating. Like I went down this road several times. And I just, in retrospect, looking back, I'm just like, man, that's such a shitty business. I'm like, why did I do that? So for me, it's like the key is not that you don't offer those services. It's that you offer them at such a premium to only the perfect fit for them. And then you still make a lot of money on your front end through like the basic kind of setup and the done with you versus the done for you. All the pain comes from the done for you. Let's just be real. Like when you're going and pulling lists and writing copy and launching campaigns and managing replies, like I know that the promise is you get leads. My God, it is fucking hard to do. Like it is a lot of work for one company. If it's just me and I have to go do this for myself, I'm just like, oh fuck. Now do it for 20 companies. Do it for 50. It's extremely painful. And so my thought is, okay, just make sure that you are careful on who you choose to work with. Be careful on the fact that you could have half the profit and twice the life. And it's subtle wisdom, but take it from me. But I think coming back to, I think one point I want to make. Let's check our time here. I know we only have 8 minutes. So I think
actually, to be honest, that's the biggest lesson I have learned here. I had a chat with Aurelio, that is part of this group as well. And we always say 95% of all this is the client. If you dial in the client selection, everything else works. Clients that have patience, you have a good relationship with them, they fit the criteria for the type of market you have knowledge about, you run the numbers, they understand the numbers, all that extremely important. So to be honest, that is the biggest lesson that I have learned here, and 100% agree with that. And I have experienced also the pain of not selecting the right client. That is, since day one, is extremely painful. So yeah, completely agree with that.
And that goes back to why the pitch deck that I give you guys in the course is just so heavy on just like, you're going to fail. Like it just like constantly beats into their head. You're going to fail and you're going to fail. And I'm not here to stop you from failing. I'm here to give you your best shot. It's just because we go into the World Series does not mean we win the game. It means that we got the best team together. We got up to bats. We swung the bat and we played as hard as we could. That's what I'm here for. I'm your best team. But we are in a hard world, right? There's the market forces are moving. Your offer is a big component of it. There's a whole sidecar called your sales team. Can they actually follow up appropriately? So I just think that for me, I think not only is it a good sales tactic, but it just is true. It's like you're going to have the conversation one way or another. And one of the core principles that I live by is if it's inevitable, just accelerate it. Right? If you're going to have to pivot away from your agency model and you're like, I just need this to pay for the money to go do this thing, just accelerate it. It's like, just cut it off, feel the pain now, and move on. Because at the end of the day, like if I tell the client, hey, you're going to fail for these reasons, I need you to be very clear on the scope here. I'm not doing these 5 things. If you're cool with that, let's work together. Great. And I think one that builds respect. You would think that like actually alienates the client. And the problem is that there's a lot of people in here who are just getting their first clients and they're like a needy guy at a bar who just hasn't had sex fucking forever. And he's looking at the hot girl and he just, I can't figure it out. And then you go up and you're like, you look beautiful. And you like look like an idiot, right? So it's like the key thing is you got to realize that you get to set the boundaries. And setting boundaries is actually like 99.9% of the game. But I think in the beginning, it's so easy to be like, I just need money. Just give me some money. I'll bend over. Give it to me, baby. So I would say one thing I want to leave you guys with, which I think is just like my highest level take on the market, is that I think that like we are in a hype cycle. I do think that there's massive value, and I have to be careful because it's not one dimensional. It's certainly multi-dimensional, and context matters deeply. Sergio said, it's what kind of business are you at? Are you a solopreneur who's just getting started with an agency, or are you a $2 million+ product market fit type company? Do you want to scale up to $100 million? Do you want to stay small and have a lifestyle business? All these things determine the path that one takes. So I don't think there's a perfect one size fit all. I think that part of the reason we're seeing such a froth and hype in the market around Claude Code in general is because one, it's just like this new agentic cycle driven by OpenClaw or whatever it's called nowadays is just, it's like we're at peak craziness. But I also think that it's just like we're seeing another version of this. If you guys go back 3 years ago, it's happened 4 or 5 times, right? Then it was open AI, and then it was Clay, and then it was the next thing and the next thing. There's going to be another thing after this. And then everybody
Shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object syndrome, just constantly jumping. And it's funny because the guy, I don't care at this point. Like I keep on talking about this guy, Othin, who has a GTM agency and is a newsletter. And he's like I wish I could have him on here because I could help him. And I tried, and he rejected the offer. But he is like a prototypical 22, 23-year-old, no offense to anybody in that age group, founder, where he puts out a newsletter, I'm going to get to $1 million in 1 month. And he says he did it, fine, great. And I said to everybody here about 2 months ago, I said, hey, guarantee you that guy's in great pain right now, and he's going to collapse. So he disappeared. The newsletter stopped for 60 days after he had achieved it. And I was like, okay, waiting. And then he came out with a newsletter 2 days ago, and he said, I've been deep in the bowels of Claude Code. Of course he is. And I have just created the open source version of Clay. Sure you did. And so now he's out there like promoting this thing because he realized the agency thing he just built sucks. He probably lost 70% of the clients already. And now this is his new distraction to not face the fact that he just built a shitty agency. And so I think that there's a concept of the work about the work. And the thing about this entire industry is it's all about that. It's like the work about the work. Let's just talk about the work we're doing to get the work done. But it's like if we could all just like generate results for the client in the simplest, most streamlined, elegant way possible, why wouldn't we? Why do we have to constantly fucking ejaculate on LinkedIn about how Claude Code is amazing? Anyways, that's like my take. And I think the reason it's happening is because I think there's a pent up demand for as long as time of sales guys who did not have the ability to be creative and produce product. I think that's like fundamentally where it comes from, is that like even everybody on this call, we want to own a business. We want to be in control. We don't want to have the fucking fulfillment be handled by somebody who controls us. And I get that, believe me. Like I've been trying to build good products I think I identify as a salesperson first, and now I've transitioned into more of a product manager, entrepreneur.
Everybody wants a shortcut. That's what it comes down to. And so whatever the shiny object is that promises that next shortcut, and maybe that's the advantage of being over 30, right? We've experienced a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Actually, what you mentioned is something that I'm using for outreach that I'm doing. Like I created a video where I showed the companies that are hiring go-to-market engineers why they shouldn't hire them, because they are focused on tools, they are focused on the new tech, they are not really focused on the results. And then I showed them the revenue engineering way, that is simplicity, numbers first, a clear and streamlined path, and it is performing really well, especially on LinkedIn and companies hiring go-to-market engineers, of course, connected with the market that I want to go after. So I think at the end of the day, decision makers, CROs, VPs of sales, can filter or identify the BS and people that actually understand what they are doing. And I think that is going to be a shift that is going to be extremely relevant in the next couple of months or years. So it's something that I'm using as well. And I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not always about the tools and the new tools, as you mentioned, but having clarity about the results actually the company want and how you can align your skill set to.
So I gotta go in about 2 minutes, but Shaw, why don't you, I see your hand up.
Yeah, if there's a time crunch, we can chat about it later. I just wanted to give a quick update. Based on the topic that we were discussing, I've seen some of the done-for-you offers do phenomenally well because people just don't want to hire inside BDR.
It sells well. It definitely sells well. It's the maintenance.
No, but the thing is, for certain clients, that are not problem aware, that are not going to try their best to get ahead of this AI curve, etc. I think for them, that kind of persona done for you is the way to go. That's why I disagreed with the whole take here because it was generalizing it to all types of buyers. But from what I've seen and from the calls that I've been on, people just don't give a shit. They just care about you getting them at least 5 to 10 meetings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're like, "They're done for you? Great. Oh, but tech stack is going to be a bit extra. But we can come in and set it for you. Or if you want us to set all of it by ourselves, it's going to be an extra $1,000." When I say it out up front like that, they're like, "Yeah, that's fine. You
Yeah,
can
they
set
don't,
it
they
up
don't
for
give a
me."
shit. They don't care.
They don't fucking care.
I've never had
They're just-
anybody say no to that. Hey, by the way, you have to
Yeah.
pay for the tech stack. Never had. Swear to God, I'm not a perfect salesperson, but I am perfect on that offer. It has never not been taken.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that. But I do have another update, Ben, that I'll give.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I would say, by the way, like we still have done for you agency clients, right? Sergio actually took over one of my done for you agency clients. It's been around for 8 months. He's now running that as a sidecar as he builds his own agency. So just so you know, like I'm not like anti done for you. I still do it. I still make money from it. I'm just simply saying that would I want every single piece of revenue coming from done for you? No. And because it's really challenging.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And I would say if I'm building an agency from scratch, I think it's the hardest offer to make because you have the least credibility. Whereas I think it's like, hey, I can come in and just set up this thing for a low dollar value. Like for $500, I'll come in, set the whole system up. I'll hand it over to you. You run it. That's a more believable offer where the entry to say yes to that is just much lower. So that's my only point is that I think if I had to start from scratch again and rebuild the agency from the ground up, that's what I would be thinking about. And frankly, even at this moment, it's very strange. Like when I go and I sell red ups to non-technical people, they're just like, but I don't. So exactly how does it all work? And I'm just like, you know what, dude? Like $10,000, I will set up the whole thing for you. I'll pull your full lead list. I'll get you going and I'll have the whole machine going. And it's been taking. So even not rev ops, I'm just thinking for non-technical people, I will do a one-time setup for them. And I'm happy just to do a bunch of one-time setups. I just don't want to be there in 3 months from now. And it seems so counterintuitive. If you told me 3 years ago that I'm saying this right now, I'd be like, what? It's no, I want to go in, get them set up, leave behind some affiliate, some SaaS. And if they want some very basic, like I just keep it going price, like let's $1,000 a month.
1,500, 1,500, something like that, just to support.
Yeah. It's easy money, man.
Like a consulting.
Ben,
Yeah, actually,
when you set them
I'm
up,
also doing that.
are you pitching that you're getting their and everything and like fully getting them operational and live, or are you just setting up software and like just signing them up for software?
No, so the way I've been pitching it is they come on to learn about Revit. So this is different than what I would do for you guys. But and then you can see their eyes are like, but how do I put it together? They don't even know what instantly is like. And then I'm talking about ReviOps. So I'm like, look, like I get this is a lot. You need all these things. Why don't I come in and set it up for you? And they're going to be like, oh, what's that look like? I'm like, it looks like this. And I'm like, look, if you want coaching afterwards, because usually they start asking me tactical questions about how do you do this and what's the setup look like? And I'm like, look, like these are all strategic questions. I also have a done with you offer. And so then I pivot to that. But the thing is, as you explain the whole new world in your world, and as you explain the way that ReviOps configures within it, natural questions start to bubble. And they're just like, but how does this work? And how does that work? And then you just say, look, like I get you have a lot of questions. Why don't I just come in and set it up? So you're actually creating a problem in their mind because they're realizing they want the thing, but they are restricted from truly understanding the implementation side. I unfortunately, I got to jump, guys.
All right, cool.
All right, I'll see you guys. Bye.